When I was still in college, I thought of trying out some dating apps like Bumble and Tinder for no other reason than to meet new people and alleviate my own boredom. I was looking for someone I knew from high school named Claire. We rarely talked about anything. We only briefly discussed how coincidental it was that we had never talked before despite having the same group of friends in high school, and our school was relatively small. So I found it somewhat strange because we hardly knew each other. The conversation quickly turned into her asking me if I wanted to hang out that night. I was very excited, so of course I said yes, all the while trying not to sound too enthusiastic about it. You know, I kind of thought it was weird that she wanted to hang out so quickly, especially at night. But I hardly questioned it, and I didn't want to ruin my chance. She asked me to come and told me that I could come anytime after 11. She told me that she would be alone and I should try to bring some weed if I could. I didn't smoke, but I knew friends who did, so I came with $10 worth of crappy-looking weed hoping it would be good enough for it. Looking back, I should have been more cautious, and at the very least I should have told someone close to me where I was going because little did I know, I was in a very messy situation. But my 20-year-old virgin self, curious and quickly praying alongside the infinite possibilities for me to get lucky that night. I thought I liked the idea of not knowing what would happen, but I never thought in a million years that what happened would happen on the way there. I was excited, and I sang along to some music in my car almost the whole way there when I started getting close, maybe just 2 minutes away. I started feeling strange because I didn't recognize the area much, and that's what made my anxiety creep up a little when I got into the neighborhood. I saw that it was a very run-down area, and I started questioning if I was in the wrong location, but the address she gave me matched where I was, so I kept driving until I found her house. I felt my heart pounding to my stomach when I saw the house she gave me the address to. Deep down in my heart, I knew for sure something was off. There was something off about the house and the area. I was inside, and overall the house was very dark, and the only light coming from there was the light from inside on the upper floor. I lowered my fogged window so I could get a better view, and I told myself that there was no way I was going in there. Approaching the house, it truly seemed abandoned. I started driving within less than a minute. Then I received a notification on Tinder from Claire asking where I was going and to come back, telling her that I thought I had the wrong house, and she told me my assumption was wrong and instructed me to come back. I really didn't want to, and I had a bad feeling about it, but I also didn't want the setting to be too bad. So foolishly, I went back. I asked her if she wanted to come out when I arrived there, and she called me a coward and told me that she had just finished getting ready and the door was unlocked and I could let myself in. Until this day, I'm ashamed of how stupid I was to just go along with what she said, but I did it. I parked my car on the side of the road and started walking towards the porch. I knocked on the door to announce myself, and I opened it. I entered slowly, and immediately I knew the house was disgusting. The atmosphere was very dark, but from what I could see, the house was messy and looked very vile. I heard music coming from upstairs, and I saw a light up there too, so I followed it. "Hello, Claire, I'm here," I said, getting closer as I could hear the music more clearly. It was some kind of death metal or black metal playing, which really scared me, to be honest, adding to the eerie and frightening vibe of it all. I finally managed to climb the stairs, and I saw there were only 2 rooms, one of which was the bathroom with its light off, and I looked inside, and there was no one, not pointing towards me at the other door where the music was coming from, but it didn't look like there were lights on in the bedroom or anything inside. That's when my anxiety turned into fear. I really started questioning my choices of how I could end up in this situation. Then the music stopped. I heard a series of footsteps walking on the wooden tiles in front of me in the room, and people talking. Then I heard loud screams coming from the bedroom, which made me so scared that I almost fell from the stairs. Finally, my instincts kicked in, and I realized it was time to leave and how dangerous the situation I was in. I ran down the stairs, and that's when I saw a man dressed in black with gothic makeup and long black hair, almost at the same time as the door behind me on the upper floor also opened. "Hey, it's Claire. I'm glad you could make it," he said. I turned around, and I saw him. Definitely not Claire from school, and I felt 100 years old being caught, and the man below started walking quickly up the stairs towards me. "Okay, buddy, this isn't funny anymore. Please leave me alone." And they both started laughing and started calling me names. I knew my only choices were to fight or run, so I figured running would be the best first option. I ran to the bathroom and managed to close and lock the door before they reached me. They both started banging on the door and twisting the doorknob very hard, yelling for me to let them in. I frantically searched for something I could use as a weapon, and the best thing I could find was a toothbrush. I knew it wouldn't help much, but I thought it was better than nothing at all if I really had to use it. I started to panic more as I fully realized how dire the situation I was in. I opened the bathroom curtain and saw a window that looked small enough, but I had to try it. Luckily, it was my only choice at the moment. I opened the window, and I managed to climb through it, and when I landed on the roof, I almost slipped and fell to the ground. Thankfully, I didn't, and I caught myself. I made my way around the house while still on the roof, looking for the safest way down, and I managed to find a trampoline in the backyard that I could jump onto to get out of there. I made it to my car, and there were no signs of them following me or anything. I called the police and gave them all the information I could. I told them I was on my way home and gave them the address of the place. And the police then stopped by my house that night to tell me what they found, so I could make a better statement. Apparently, the people who trapped me were part of some black metal band who killed innocent people by luring them out from dating apps like Tinder, using a pretty girl as bait in the abandoned house. The police found 2 bodies, 2 girls my age, and tons of blood. I think the police actually caught 2 murder suspects, but are still looking for the rest. And it seems the group called themselves something like Sacred Immortality or something. They were really messed up, and I almost got killed that night. Since then, I've never touched dating apps again, and I don't think I ever will. I made one of the dumbest decisions I've ever made a few years ago, which ultimately led me straight into a truly terrifying and downright gruesome situation with someone I honestly believed was a serial killer, or even worse. I was 21 years old, a girl, and this happened about 3 years ago, to be precise. At that time, I was 18 years old and had just graduated from high school. It was mid-August, and it was a relatively boring day until then. My summer vacation was extremely dull. My dad and I lived alone, and he was very protective of me, so he was emotionally and psychologically harsh on me. He didn't allow me to have any friends, and every day I had to stay home to help him with chores or be his private servant, even to the point of taking the door off my room's hinges, leaving me feeling completely powerless. He never allowed me to have any privacy whatsoever, until he finally gave me a phone about a month before all of this happened. He usually took my phone at 8 every night, but he was very drunk that night and didn't come home from the bar until after 10 or so. I guess he forgot or thought I was asleep, so he didn't bother. I'm not sure. Maybe it was a mix of both. I had Tinder on my phone and used it as an escape to meet new people and socialize. For years in isolation, I had never really been able to meet good friends. Most kids at my school pretended to be my friends or just ignored me and did their best to make my life hell. I had been talking to a guy I'll call Alex for this story on Tinder for over a day, and our friendship developed quite quickly. But I had to be careful because my dad would snoop on everything on my phone, so I had to delete anything on it that my dad wouldn't approve of every night before he gave me the phone back, which included Tinder. He would kill me if he knew I was on there. Plus, the person I was talking to was 28 years old, and at the time he was much older. He caught my attention and boosted my confidence that an older man was talking to me. But looking back a few years ago, I could see how scary it was for him to talk to someone my age. Besides, I told him about my situation at home, and he said I could stay with him. He reminded me that I was an adult now, and legally didn't have to obey my dad anymore. I was thrilled about this, but also scared. He told me that he could pick me up tonight, and that I should pack my things. I told him that I wasn't ready for that yet, and just wanted to hang out first, and I asked him if it was okay. And he agreed. He said he would be there to pick me up. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I said okay. I told him I had to go back home at 4 a.m., and he said it was okay. I also told him not to drive into my driveway. He would just park on the side of the road and send me a message when he was here, and I would just sneak out of my dad's house. The driveway was quite long, and I was afraid my dad somehow would hear it stop and wake up, so I thought him parking further away would be much safer for us. He then told me that he preferred to talk through SMS, and he asked me for my number. I gave it to him, but told him that on normal nights, unless asked otherwise, don't send me messages after 8. I already knew about my dad, so he agreed. And of course, Alex showed up around 12 past 5 minutes, and he sent me a message to let me know that he was outside as I asked him to. I messaged him back and said that I would be out in just a few minutes. I snuck out of the window and started walking along the driveway, and I didn't see any signs of Alex as I had told my dad quite a while. The driveway was large, and each side had a cluster of trees outlining it from the entrance to the end near the mailbox. I thought it was odd because I thought I would see lights coming from his car or something, but I guess I just assumed he turned off his car to be more discreet and not too suspicious because he knew about my dad. As I walked down the driveway about halfway, I began to hear whispers. I sat there for a moment just observing, and then I heard a man laughing hysterically and quickly returning to calmness. Then the whispers continued. I started walking again very slowly, and I managed to reach a distance of about 20 feet from what I thought was Alex. I could finally start to hear what was being said until I concluded that he was making a call because he was chatting. But there was no response from what I could hear now. I can admit that I was eavesdropping, and this wasn't something I usually did. But given the circumstances, I'm sure you can understand why I was so cautious. I'm so glad I did it because I might be dead now if I didn't. And that's when I heard the most disgusting and disturbing thing I've ever heard in my life. He was boasting on the phone about how he was waiting for me, and how he was going to rape me brutally, and I quote, to keep me alive as long as possible. I was truly almost vomiting hearing this, and I made a little noise apparently because right after that, Alex seemed to become alarmed, and suddenly fell silent. I thought about running back inside, but I figured I had a better chance of just hiding. I ran back towards my origin to the house, and I took heart right into the woods and hid in a spot I knew. I thought I'd be safe for now. 5 minutes had passed, and not a single sound came up, and I got a message from Alex. "Where are you?" he asked, clearly ignoring it, and then I turned off my ringer. He then started blowing up my phone with messages and calls until I finally picked up. Maybe the 5th time he called me. I figured it was better to answer the phone and lie and make excuses that I couldn't come tonight, and how I was really sorry, and we should hang out another time he didn't show up. But I didn't buy it. I figured he knew I was into him. He started getting really angry at me and trying to make me feel bad by telling me that I was wasting his time. And that's when his true nature came out. He started cursing at me and telling me about how bad I was and how no man would ever love me and things like that. Then he said something that really scared me. "I know where you live, remember that? I hope you sleep well, darling. I'll see you soon." Then he hung up. Right after that, I heard the car start up and speed away, and I'm glad it's the last time I heard from him. I really wanted to keep the peace because he knew where I lived, and I just hope he'll stay away after this. I stayed up all night in bed wondering if he would come back or not, and I was afraid he would kill me. I blocked him on Tinder and from my account phone number too, and I called my grandma the next morning when my dad was at work, and I told her what happened. I really told her about my dad, and told her how bad he was to me all my life. She came and picked me up, and we didn't tell my dad anything about what happened. My grandma always knew that my dad was really bad, but she never really knew how bad he was to me at home. I was too scared to tell anyone about it for a long time, but it was really the best decision I ever made. Since then, I've been much happier, and I've been trying to get a place with my boyfriend. My life goes on, and I've recovered and gotten better every day. I tried to contact the police, but they told me they couldn't do anything without any evidence, so I know I'm messed up. Most likely Alex is still out there hurting other people if that's his real name. I downloaded Tinder because I was really bored, and honestly quite lonely. It was just last year when everything hidden finally started to subside a bit. I've actually used Tinder once before this, and I've met some pretty nice people. Outside the app, there wasn't anything special or extraordinary the last time I used Tinder, and it was the last time I used a dating app again. I met a blonde girl named Haley. She seemed alright at first. That's why I met her in the first place. I thought she was sweet, and I really wanted someone to connect with. She seemed so fitting, so that's when we decided to meet. Let me tell you now that she was really into fans and became really crazy about it. You always hear horror stories about people meeting strangers from the internet, which didn't seem to concern you too much because you think things like this don't happen often, and the chances of it happening to you are very slim. That's what I thought. I thought we would just go out to eat or maybe watch a movie or something. But she instead wanted to come to my house, even though she insisted I make up reasons why we could hang out at my place. It was actually because my house was messy, and I also just didn't feel like going out. She bluntly explained to me that we couldn't go out unless we had to hang out at my house. See, I know I should have seen this as a danger sign, and part of me did, but I didn't pay much attention to it. She was very pretty and I was lonely. I thought she must be using it to her advantage because she also knew. I eventually gave in, and I told her she could come, so we arranged for her to come, and that gave me enough time to clean the house and to shower and get ready. She messaged me when she got here, and I let her in. It felt very awkward at first, and right away I thought she looked a little different from her photo on her Tinder account. I didn't know if I was just overthinking while showering and getting ready, or not, and I didn't say anything first about it because I didn't want to be rude. Plus, I'm not that attractive, so I just let it be, and we started chatting. Everything was fine, and then she asked me if I had something to drink alcohol wisely, and I told her I had about a fifth of Jameson left in the closet. I excused myself to the restroom, and when I came back, she was sitting on the couch with a drink in her hand. I saw she also had prepared a drink for me, which was on my coffee table. I really wasn't interested in drinking alcohol, especially not hard liquor, so I grabbed a beer from my fridge and drank it, about 3 or 4 glasses of beer. Then I finally drank my mixed drink, so she kept pushing me to drink. In fact, I almost completely decided not to drink it, just because of how bad she wanted me to do it. I suffer from paranoid OCD, and thought that maybe she had put something in my drink when I was using the bathroom, and I had a serious gut feeling to stay away from the drink she made for me. But I let it go eventually, because the more I drank, the more I realized how delusional I sounded to myself. She seemed like a nice girl, and we got along fine. She was all right, plus there seemed to be nothing in my drink, so I thought it was okay. Plus I drank it, and I didn't feel much different until maybe about 10 or 20 minutes later. But I was just pretending to be drunk and thinking too much. After all, I'm a light drinker, and being sick is more than enough to mess me up. This is where everything started to get real weird. The last thing I remember is we were sitting on the couch, and I started feeling really weird. Started feeling faint and very dizzy, until I eventually passed out completely. I must have been out cold for at least 5 hours because I woke up with a sore butt with dawn, and what I found was just a nightmare. I was lying on my bedroom floor, and I awoken in a terrified state of mind. I slowly started to piece together that something was horribly wrong, and I was still feeling weird from the drugs she had roofied me with. The first thing I noticed was that my whole entire body was in serious pain, all the way from my neck to my arms, back, and stomach, too. I had bruises all over me, and over 5 serious stab-like puncture wounds, along with deep cuts in both of my arms and my stomach. I got up and saw that my bed and the floor in my room were soaked with blood, and the walls as well. I almost fainted again when I saw this, and I remember feeling like I couldn't breathe. I went to grab my phone to call the police, but I couldn't find it. It turned out that she had stolen my phone and all 4 of my TVs that were in my house, along with some jewelry and some of my safes. I had over $20,000 in it. I looked all around my house, but nobody was in sight. My house was a complete wreck. She destroyed windows, vandalized just about every room, and I mean, she just completely demolished everything. I remember looking in the mirror at one point, having a complete breakdown. I couldn't believe that any of this was real. I'm almost 100% positive that there was somebody else other than the girl that I met that was in on this. It's hard for me to even type this out, but my stomach had a really disturbing wound, and they used my blood to draw a pentagram on the wall of my bedroom. I found one of my old phones in my dresser, and I plugged it into the charger and connected it to the Wi-Fi so I could call a friend on FaceTime audio to get the cops out to my house. And I just waited for them to show up. It was probably about 20 minutes, if that. I don't know what the hell she drugged me with exactly, but it was reported as some sort of rare, extremely powerful tranquilizer. I gave all the information I could to the police and logged into my Tinder account on my old phone in hopes that the account would still be there so I could show the police. But of course they unmatched me and probably deleted the account. And I thought it wouldn't have helped much anyways, because I'm pretty sure I was catfished. They never caught the people who did this. I actually moved to a new house a couple of months back, and I don't live in as much fear now. I also have security cameras and an ADT security alarm system set up now too, which I recommend everybody has if possible. It could save your life.